Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Welcome to the Health Oddity podcast. I'm here with a great set of people who I like being around, people who I enjoy talking to. And my name's Paul Bassett. And with me today is James St. Pierre. So say hey, James.
Hello.
And we haven't got Peter. Peter's away. I don't know what he's doing. He's skiving, but we'll give him this day off. We won't let him do it again. So he's there in the ether, just like watching over us. But I'd like to welcome a very special guest. We've been running the Health Oddity podcast for about 8 weeks now, and we've covered many subjects. And we've come at it from a personal trainer's point of view. We've got in nutritionists and dietitians. We've also worked with some specialists who focus on particular tools, such as the mace, and the Rick Brown episode was a fantastic one. So if you haven't heard that, check that out. But today, and it's a subject quite close to my heart because I'm working, and I'm sure it is with James and Peter, because we work with people over the age of 35, people who perhaps had athletic past or people who've never trained before. And we deal with a lot of injuries, and we deal with a lot of restrictions, both in terms of movement, and both in terms of physical confidence. And from my point of view, having a secondary expertise outside my own strength and conditioning bubble in terms of physios, chiropractors, doctors, etc. is so important. And so I asked Khalil Hussein to come on, who I met many years ago. I think it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago in a gym called Physical Culture and Kitchen or something like that. I've even forgotten, which was a really great space, but it didn't last long for a variety of reasons. But it was a great space, and we got talking because you're just down the road from that gym, and so you were based in Putney at the time, and I'm based in Putney, and obviously I'm looking to always refer people to great physios, chiropractors, and health professionals. So Khalil, please say hello. Welcome to the podcast, and I'll do a little introduction about you, but please say hi.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Paul. Thanks for having me, James. I appreciate you bringing me on. I'm glad to sort of be here and help share my knowledge.
Yeah, no problem. So one of the reasons I invited you on, because right at the beginning, when I was starting to start my business up in Putney, I was really interested in just your perspective on rehabilitation, but also on performance. And you came at that from a variety of different angles. So you're a chiropractor, but also you have a lot of special interests outside the standard chiropractic discipline. Functional FRC systems, so the functional range systems, you're very much involved with, and that is something we can delve into. I'm not going to spend too much time now, but it's a very interesting modality when it comes to rehabilitation, and I think the people who generally approach things like the FRC and start getting skilled outside their discipline tend to have a really interesting view on getting people back to health or to optimize health. So if you don't mind, Khalil, could you tell us a little bit about you and what brought you to your discipline and how it's kind of informing your practice at the moment?
Sure, thanks, Paul. So where did I start? Basically, we probably would start with my mother, actually. So before I was born, my parents had quite a bad car accident. So I grew up in Zimbabwe as well. My parents grew up there, and my parents had a bad car accident. My mother broke her neck. So she fractured C5 and C6, and this was in probably the early 80s. But she did it back in Africa, so the medical care wasn't exactly the best. Just lay down in bed, put it on traction, fuse it up, that's it, see you later, stay in the collar, no rehab, etc. So my mother always kind of struggled for most of her life. She had a hemiplegia, which is essentially she had one side of her body that never really worked that well. And so I always sort of grew up and saw her struggle to do just basic things that you and I can normally do. She could never lift up a glass with her left hand. She walked with a limp, and as she got older, things unfortunately got worse. And it sort of pushed me towards that health and fitness kind of side of, I would say, medicine, if you will. And so then when I was in university, I decided, look, I want to become a chiropractor. So I went and did that. And then after that, I just sort of kept pushing myself, kept trying to learn more, because I just found that even with chiropractic, it is a limited scope. You know what I mean? It's what they teach you in university is the bare minimum. And just like you guys, we're always learning. We're all white belts. We're always trying to gain more. There's always new things coming out. And so the next step for me after that was once I graduated, was to sort of delve and figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to treat and help people, because I always wanted to help my mother as well. And so I would help her a little bit. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple of years ago from cancer. So, and I always sort of say to myself, I wish that what I knew now today, I could have known back then, you know, so that knowledge and that experience that I have today would have helped her 10 years ago a lot more. And so, and I think it fits perfectly for your kind of audience, because they're in that age where they're starting to get a little bit older. They're, you know, the body's starting to wear down a little bit. So the knowledge and that you guys can share with them and that we can hopefully share with them will benefit them a lot for their formative years. But anyway, so after that, I went to a look around. So I did things like DNS, which is dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. I've done the SFMA with Gray Cook, which is the sort of the functional movement stuff, if you will. Some people know the functional movement screen. I've done that. Then I started going down the road of FRC. And that sort of really opened my eyes a lot. So FRC just stands for Functional Range Conditioning. It's a system developed by a man called Andrea Spina from Canada. And he's a very, very smart man. And he just basically took what the evidence said, and he created a sort of not a technique, but it's a system around how it works. And essentially what he found the problem was that most people create a technique or a thing, and then they go afterwards and look for evidence for it. Whereas he did the opposite. He just took all the evidence, tried different things, and was like, you know what? This works. Let's put this all into a system. And he also recognized that, as you said before, that there's a big gap between, say, working with the chiropractor and then with the trainer, in a sense of like continuity, like we said before, that people, there's a lack of, the continuity is the only way I can think of. And so FRC really, I think, helps to bridge that gap, and the functional range systems help to bridge that gap, because it's a way to communicate, and also just a way for trainers to understand a bit more about my world, and for me to understand about trainers' world, because I'm not a strength and conditioning coach. You know, I don't know the best way to help someone squat, 500 kilos. I don't know a lot of things that I don't know. And that's where, if we can learn to communicate and share with one another, that we can get someone where they want to be and get them to become better. And I suppose that's sort of been my journey thus far, and it's brought me here today. So I hope that was a good sort of synopsis of everything.
Can I ask, Khalil, because I've not met you before, this is the first time we met obviously today, what's your kind of practice at the moment? Are you're based in Putney still, and do you work privately, and what kind of clients do you work with, just so that I and the kind of listeners can get an idea of the kind of space that you work in at the moment?
Sure, thanks, James. Yeah, so at the moment, I'm not in Putney anymore. So I left Putney a couple of years ago. I used to work in Live Free Wellness with a lady called Nicole Payne. I think she's still in, a lot of people in Putney will know her. She's been there for a long, long time. So I worked there for a while, then I left. I was working in central London, and then I was working in Hounslow inside a gym. My wife and I, we own a dental practice. So the ultimate dream was to have a polyclinic, a dental clinic, plus a chiropractic, plus a small little gym, plus multiple things, and then have people coming in, maybe even hopefully small training classes, that kind of thing, have the continuity of care. But at the moment, obviously with COVID, the gyms have shut down, everything's different. So right now I'm currently just practicing from home. I'm doing a lot of online work with people as well. And I am doing a few sort of call outs here and there. But mainly right now I'm working from home, and I'm just working with people who sort of really need help. At the moment, I'm not sort of seeing very, I'm referring a lot of people out just because I don't have the space to deal with them at the moment. But I'm hoping that in a couple of months that we can open up a space of my own, and then I can start to work from there a bit more full time once things settle down, basically.
Yeah, so COVID is a bit of a crazy time at the moment. Obviously, we're all just recording this the day after Prime Minister's announcement, so I know some of the countries currently on a second lockdown. I'm in London, and nothing's changed too much, but it has disrupted everything. And I suppose that's something to think about at the moment. People don't have the access to the kind of care that they had in the past. And certainly for the 3 or 4 months during the initial lockdown, that was a major issue. I suppose before I get sidetracked, did you notice at all during that 3-month period, did that change the kind of things that were being presented to you? Did you see people getting injured less, or were things getting worse? I mean, what's changed since pre-lockdown and post-lockdown in terms of your practice?
That's a great question. So, I mean, one of the biggest things I noticed was the stress, to be honest. You know, I think most people don't realize that stress is a physical reaction to something. You know, when we experience an emotion, like one of my patients out there, she became redundant. And you can just see it in their bodies. You know, you can see the reaction that emotional stress has on their bodies. And there's a reason they say that, oh, you feel emotions, you don't think them. So I've seen people with the stress, it's sort of taken over their body, and their body's starting to sort of wear down, and you can see the effects that it has. And pre-lockdown, I mean, it was just a normal kind of stuff. People were, you know, just a bit of back pain here and there, a bit of I mean, there were some chronic things, but it's just kind of all normal. But after lockdown, a lot of it, I think I could put it down just to the stress, and also people just staying at home more often, to be honest, that they're not looking after themselves, which in itself is also very stressful. Staying at home, you know, your environment kind of dictates how you feel, and so it's just this endless cycle of people just kind of deteriorating. I find, and I find a lot of people. Even in the dental practice that we own, we're finding a lot of people have a lot of problems just because they've been stuck at home, stressed out, eating badly because of the stress. You know, they haven't been able to sort of manage those things, because as we know, exercise, diet are fantastic ways to manage stress. And so now, because they haven't been able to go to the gym or to go to, you know, Hounds of Health, they haven't been able to look after themselves as much. And it's just that they, you know, they're struggling. I think a lot of people are struggling. I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed, really.
I mean, I noticed that in clients. I'm sure maybe you do as well, James. And that's sometimes people come in and they manifest stress in many different ways. You know, I'll have certain clients, and you just know if they've had a stressful day because they're like, my back is hurting, and it could be the low back, or it could be the upper back in one individual. I've had people with migraines when they get stressed. I remember in my late 20s when I was very much less healthy than I am now, but actually certainly less stressed at times. But what I would do is I would get very severe stomach problems. And some people get skin issues, and there's this kind of physical manifestation of mental stress. And then the thing is, what we try and do is often train hard to get rid of it, and that is another stress. And then you probably then deal with the mechanical and kind of material issues that kind of come from overtraining, or training poorly, or training badly. So I suppose, unless you've got a question, James, what is your role at the moment as a chiropractor, and what is the kind of, why should someone approach you, and in what circumstances should a client that for example we look after, or just a general kind of health seeker, why should they approach you, and what should they be thinking about when they're making that decision, say for a chiropractor over a physio or any health professional?
Yeah, good question. I think, to be honest, to me, people always ask me what's the difference between a chiro, physio, still, and I always just say that chiropractors are better looking, and so it's you know, that to me there is no difference that much. I mean, there shouldn't be a difference. I think that people become dogmatic with, oh, I'm a chiropractor, oh, I'm a physio, oh, I'm a this, I'm a that. You know, like I don't really care, to be honest. Like because there's so much overlap. You know, I've met PTs and trainers who are sometimes more knowledgeable than physiotherapists. I've met physiotherapists who can adjust spines better than chiropractors. You know, I've met chiropractors like Andrea Ospina. He's a chiropractor. He invented a global, worldwide rehab course, and he's a chiropractor. So, you know, I think that there's the one thing people should really understand is that it's not so much about what's the not the modality, I suppose would be the word, or therapy. Don't look at, oh, is there a chiropractor or physio? Like that's not the question to look at. Is what is this person capable? How can they help me? You know, is this person, can they give me everything I need? When someone comes to see me, I don't just treat them physically. I don't just crack their back, do a bit of release on them, and then say, okay, here, do the stretch, and then bugger off. I have to really sit down and help the person. And every day I have to look at people and say, okay, I can see that the stress is manifesting in your body. Let's talk about that stress. Let's talk about how you're managing your stress. Let's talk about how you're going to do your exercise. Let's talk about how you're going to do the logistics of having 5 kids and then exercising. It's not as simple as that. So I think there's very little in a name or a title. I think there's much more to be found in the individual. So I think that would be the key, that if anyone's looking to find someone to help them, we really suss out the individual, find out what they're about, what do they offer, what knowledge can they bring, how can they better your life? Not so much whether they do a certain technique, because to be honest, any monkey can do a technique. Anyone can learn to do. I can teach you guys in 10 minutes how to crack someone's back. It's easy, obviously, So there's the nuances that come with it, and there's the little different things of knowing when not to do something, when to do something, how to help someone. And I think that's the biggest key. And I thought it's the same for you guys. Any PT can smash you with a HIIT session and just kill you and make you do 1,000 burpees. Doesn't mean they're actually going to get you what you want. Doesn't mean they're going to help you guys feel better. Doesn't mean that, I know in your case, Paul, like you help people move better. I'm sure in James, well, you're probably in that functional kind of realm where you help people move better. They feel better, and you know how to help this individual person. You know how to take your knowledge and mold it so that it helps them individually, because no two people are the same. And so they shouldn't be treated the same. And so that's why you need someone who can sort of take their knowledge and take what tools they have and then apply them where they're needed, rather than just being, okay, this is my tool, I'm going to apply it for everyone. Everyone's a nail, I'm the hammer, let's go. Boom, 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 boom. Which some chiropractors do, some physios do. Some chiropractors, it's like a meat factory. They'll get you in, okay, lie down, boom, 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 crack, 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 crack. We call it the flying sevens. Flying sevens, two in the neck, 2 in the mid back, 1 in the lower, 2 in the lower back, and then 1 somewhere else. It's 7 adjustments, and then that's it. Okay, see you later. Next one. They just get people in like a factory farm, and that's not what's going to help people. That's not what's going to change them or make them feel better. So it really comes down to go to the therapist, find out what they're about. Also do your research as well. Talk to people who are knowledgeable. Listen to Health Oddity podcasts. Find out these different things that people. Educate yourself, because that's the only way that you're ever going to change. And when people are in pain, I will always tell them, especially if people come in chronic pain to me, I always say to them, what you've been doing hasn't been working. So you need to change. If you don't change, you're going to stay the same. You're going to stay the same. The person you are now is a person who's in pain. The only way to get out of pain is to become a different person, to change as a person. And that takes effort, and that takes, time, which, to be honest, not a lot of people want to do, but that's really one of the best ways to do it. And how you do that is by making yourself more knowledgeable, speaking to guys like yourself, speaking to therapists, watching YouTube videos. And then from there, you'll be able to suss out and find out, okay, I think this person can help me. And then go that way. Yeah, I hope that answered the question. I sort of ran off on a ramble there.
I was just going to say, Khalil, that's fantastic, because I think what you've really described there is actually getting people to try and take responsibility and ownership of their own condition in their own life, and it's not just coming to you for a quick fix every 4 weeks or something. It's really the whole emphasis on lifestyle and self-care that you're then going to ask your patients and your clients to go and do. I mean, one thing I think you said was, obviously since lockdown, probably there's been far less people, or during lockdown anyway, far less people having these kind of big accidents and things that maybe people had previously relating to sport, or, putting their back out doing something outside. And it's probably a far more subtle kind of creeping tightening and stress and that sort of thing. So it's probably less extreme, the kind of cases that you see now, but far more subtle. Is that correct?
Yeah, the way I like to think of it is like it's stagnant water. If you leave water outside, it'll be fine. But after 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, some algae sets in, bacteria sets in, things set in, mosquitoes lay their eggs. It's a slow. It doesn't happen quickly. It happens slowly, and sometimes you won't notice it. And all of a sudden, now you've got this putrid water which you can't drink. It's the same thing with the human body. It's not the one thing that you do that usually sets you back. Most people say, "Oh, I didn't know what I did. I slept funny," And it's like, well, no, you can't. You've been sleeping for your whole life, so how do you not know how to do it properly by now? Do you know what I mean?
Very true.
People can see me, but it's like, how did you like even if you did like that, the human body is pretty good, you know. So it's always one of those things. And most people blow their back out picking up pencils, not deadlifting 100 kilos. And so that pencil wasn't that heavy. It was just the accumulation of multiple things. You hadn't been drinking water. You were stressed. You hadn't been sleeping. And it's just like slowly happens under the surface. And then, oh, then all of a sudden, oh, my back hurts. I said, I don't know what I did. Well, there was probably 5,000 things you did in the 2 months before that led you to this road. But yeah, I think that's like you said, it's just that sort of stagnant water is the only way I can think of it. The only way I can sort of think of a term to describe it is just that. It's just slowly decaying. And that's what happens to everyone, especially in your guys' your sort of focus of the over 35s. You know, this is what's going to happen to them. If people don't sort of start to look after themselves now, this is when aging is really going to start to kick in slowly. And before you know it, you're going to be 55 and then you need a hip replacement. By the time you need a hip replacement, it's a bit too late. You know, by the time you need a surgery, it's a little bit too late. So start from now, you know, look after yourself, do the things now, do the little things every day that will help you to get better.
And I suppose, like you were saying, with people being in lockdown a lot for the last 6 months, there's probably been far more people being sedentary, people not going out and walking as much, people spending a lot more time indoors. You know, the bad habits with the eating and the stress and that sort of thing. No, that's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey with like FRC and when that started and how you find that combines with what you do as a chiropractor as well?
Yeah, sure. So when I was, because as I said, I grew up in Zimbabwe, and we left when the country got quite bad. I moved to Australia. That's when I did my my master's degree, did my studies. I used to work in a big clinic there, and that's when I was starting to learn that kind of functional movement sort of stuff, if you will, or that sort of go down that road. Whereas a lot of my friends were sort of doing more the traditional chiropractic, I found that, you know what, this is much better. So I was sort of going down that road, did a few things, and I just found a lot of things weren't jiving. I mean, they were jiving, but they were either too difficult or they were too challenging for people to understand, too challenging for me to explain to people, you know. And I found that it's just that no one had really hit the nail on the head until I sort of started watching this guy Andrea Spino on YouTube. And at first, if you back in the day when you first saw him, you think, who the hell is this guy? He's such an angry man. He's just ranting about everything and ranting about this, and it's like, my God, what is going on with this guy? But then when you meet him in real life, he's a phenomenal guy, really, really nice guy, really, really smart, super intelligent guy. And he's just taken everything and he's simplified it down so much that anyone can understand it. You know, the other day I had a patient come in, she's a dentist. She went for the course because she just found that it was like so interesting. Oh, and she understood it. I've seen lay people who've done the courses. So he breaks it down in such a way that it becomes so easy to understand. And so like, oh yeah, when you're in the course, you just think, oh wow, why didn't I think of that? That makes so much sense. And then I just started going down that road, and I just sort of kept doing more and more and more. And I was like, this stuff is just really amazing. And again, also then they integrated the continuity. They integrated the therapy side, you know, the FR release, which is what the therapists mainly do. Then they integrated, okay, the FR assessment. Okay, this is how you assess someone. Then the kin stretch for the classes. And I think he just thought of everything in a very good systematic way. It's much more of a way of thinking rather than a technique, which I think is better, because a lot of times people learn techniques. They learn, you know, kettlebells, or they learn X, Y, and Z, or they learn a mace or whatever, and that's a technique. But they if they understand the principles, they can modify that technique, mold it to their liking, do different things with it. They can, you know, they can use that kettlebell, that mace with a certain type of person, you know, which comes with understanding the fundamentals of the system, and it teaches you how to think about things. And I mean, there's a reason why FRC and FR is becoming so big, why it's used by, you know, 30, 40 American sports teams. It's coming into Europe now. Some of the football teams are using it because it's such a great system of thinking, and it's a really good way to sort of look at a person and how you can help them and where you need to send them. I think the next step for FRC would be to try and integrate a lot of the mental stuff, like the breathing and the stress kind of related stuff. That'll be another avenue if they added something like that on. We'll just encompass everything all into one, how you can help a human person, and then probably nutrition and other stuff. But in terms of physical changes and mobility and the human body, I think it's probably one of the best systems we have out at the moment. You know, there's no, it's not 100% or perfect, but it's always growing and always changing. And the one thing that Andreas always says is that if evidence comes out to say what I'm doing is wrong, I will change what I'm doing rather than sticking to his dogma. And that's why I think, again, it's been so successful and it's exploded in popularity for all over the place.
I mean, what I like about FRC, so one of the struggles I have, and I still always have, is the traditional stretching modalities, whether it's gymnastic stretching or yoga or something what we traditionally see as stretching. What we're trying to do is mold our body into an archetype. So for example, if I want to do a forward fold and have straight legs, well, what do you do if you can't straighten your legs because your hamstrings are so tight? And what I've always liked about Kinstretch, and one of the reasons I think it's such a powerful tool for my clients, and I do a lot of it within the class, I try and integrate as much as I can. It does take a bit of time. So I only do snippets within the actual classes, is that what we're trying to work with is intention. It's basically localized strength training, working both sides of the muscle groups, trying to not only, we were talking about this earlier in one of the podcast episodes, James, where we're talking about active and passive range. What we're trying to do is find that end range, fight for more, and then own it by strength training. And as a strength and conditioning coach, I kind of like the idea of boiling down localized strength training into stretching, because it's much easier for my head to process than some kind of woo-woo where I'm just trying to relax. I mean, there is literally no relaxation as far as I'm aware in FRC. All I can think of is that there is just high levels of intention, so that if you're in a position that you're trying your best, even if it doesn't look good. So even if you can't, you know, for example, I do Hunter Cook's classes, and he is amazing. I mean, his mobility, his physical expression is insane. I don't look anything near him, but I know I'm still working as hard as him in that position. And I think that's what makes it so inclusive for me. And it's interesting that you've integrate it into a traditional modality. I say traditional, I mean, chiropractic has been 100 years or so, but you know, which is they're typically spine first, where FRC, I mean, it's very much a nervous system thing. I mean, but then the spine is, I mean, so how are you marrying these things, and how are you choosing your tool? Because these all feed in together, but they're probably going to come across from most people listening as very complex things. I mean, how do they boil it down, and how do you make it very simple for them?
Again, I think it comes down to understanding the fundamentals and how it works. You know, it's like you just said, there's no relaxation FRC, but that is true, and the intention is there. But they do try to emphasize that when you're trying to go for your stretches, you do try to relax, because when you do that relaxation, your body allows you to go further.
Yes.
But again, like you said, there also is that even though you don't look like Hunter, you're working as hard as him.
Yes.
So there is that side as well of everything. So for me, I think it just comes down to, I think it's experience and also just, like I said, understanding the system and understanding just the human body, and always being quite interested in how I'm very much I wouldn't say I'm a specialist. I'm very much a general kind of guy. I very much like general things. I know a little bit about everything. And I think that for me helps me to take this thing and apply it here to move laterally, which I find that some people find with FRC, it's very easy to go become specialized and have your blinkers on. And then when you have your blinkers on, you cannot accommodate, or you can't modify, manipulate, change things and use things in different times and different places. Because not everyone's going to do FRC. Not everyone in my HH, they're going to do what I did this exercise, you know? Some of them don't want to become more mobile. Some of them just want to be out of pain. They don't really care about going to the gym, you know? So for them, I'm not going to say, okay, well, you're going to do, you know, two minutes pels rails, then this and that, then plus this stretch, plus add weight, plus, because I know they're not going to do it. Because I have to understand them as a person, understand their motivations. And so I have to understand also what they want. And once I understand what they want, I can just say, okay, well, they want this. Let me think, okay, they want this, they need this. What are the things that I can do to get them a bit of both? You know, because I know they want this, but then they also need this. So I can't just give them what they want, because what they want is just lie down on my table and not do anything. But that's not going to work. So I need to explain to them, okay, you need this, you want this. By doing this that you need, you're going to get what you want. And they'll be like, oh, okay, cool. And then they can go and they can do it. And so for that, then sometimes it is a trial and error, honestly. Sometimes people come in and I'll try something with them and they say, yeah, okay, I'm definitely going to do exercise. I'm definitely going to do this. I'm going to do that. Blah. And then they go away and they're so busy and it becomes a recurring thing. And I say, well, obviously, I understand. Okay, now obviously you're not, you think you can do more than you can. So let's scale it back a little bit. Let's try this instead. Let's take these tools away and let's try these tools. You know what I mean? And a lot of times that's what life is. Life is literally trial and error until unfortunately you die. That's pretty much what most of life is. So that's I think that's the best way to even go about figuring out your own journey is literally just trial and error. Try it. Does it work? No. Move on. Try again. Does it work? No. Move on. Try it. Oh, this worked. Let's do more of that. Keep going. Boom, 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 until you get what you want. I think a lot of people give up too easily. A lot of people always say, I've tried everything. You know, whenever they say I tried everything, I say, have you tried standing upside down? And they always say no. I say, well, you didn't try everything then. So it's you have to keep just trying, do different things, and that's when you're going to get the results you want.
I think there's the possibility, kind of what you said, Khalil. There, people they try things, but they often maybe don't try it for long enough. And I know, you can say, most things will work if you do them consistently, or you certainly have to do things consistently to know truthfully if they work. Because like you say, you might give someone an exercise or a stretch or something you want them to do. And if they only try it for a couple of days and sort of then come to the conclusion, well, I tried it and it didn't work. There's a degree of sort of consistency there, isn't there, that people need, and learning and giving something a good chance before discounting it or discarding it,
Yeah,
there's that middle ground. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean it, but there's a middle ground. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry, I was going to just say something about James' point. Yeah, so one thing as well with some people, sometimes it's they try something consistently. That's more about their expectations. Again, that's something different about learning what is this person expecting, and then you have to manage that expectation. And sometimes that's very difficult. Sometimes you have to say to them, look, well, this is not going to work in 2 days. Or sometimes you may just need to give them something else that will give them what they want while they do what they need. And so there is that level of consistency, but sometimes it's just about, again, you have to attack their mind frame. And that's why I said before, it's more important about
you were just talking about managing expectations, Khalil, and then we kind of lost you. So if you want to go back to, I think you were going to talk about treating the individual rather than giving just a set technique, but I'll let you carry on.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jeff. Sorry, yeah. I was saying, so that's why I said it's very important that when people go to find someone, they don't look at what the person's doing, but who the person is. Can they help me? Because again, someone may have the same back problem as Joe Blogs down the street, but the same exercise won't work for them because they have a different expectation, they have a different lifestyle, they have a different mindset, they have a different tolerance to discomfort. So again, you have to be able to marry the technique or the thing with the individual as a person. If you don't do that, then that's when it's not going to work, because the person will say, oh, the exercise didn't work. Well, no, it didn't. The exercise does work, but it just didn't work for you. It didn't work in the way that you wanted it to work. So then we need to find something else that will work. It's like the same saying that's, squats are not bad for your back is bad for squats. The same the other way around. So if you can do those things, you can marry that, then people will become much better.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing because you're kind of in this middle ground because you've got like the NHS, and then you've got underneath that, you've got a lot of private healthcare. And the NHS doesn't really have the time or the resources to kind of go into this kind of ongoing care. And me and James will be very, very very honest that the amount of time and interaction you need to have with the client in order to elicit weight loss, to get people stronger, it's quite time intensive, because it's not just about doing training sessions and eating well. There's a lot of mindset stuff there. But you come with, I mean, we don't often deal with people in acute pain. We may deal with people who have very high levels of body fat and very poor eating habits. But we don't really, I mean, I don't tend to deal with very high levels of pain and the anxiety around that. So, I mean, how are you dealing with people who come to you in very acute pain? Because often when you've got back pain or when you've got a joint issue, whatever, it can be very debilitating, and it can totally cloud your judgment on other things in your life because it is so consuming. And I certainly know from my experience of having injuries and things like that, that as soon as it goes, you feel light and airy, and there's this space in your head which suddenly you've got isn't filled with pain. So, I mean, how are you dealing with that kind of anxiety around acute pain?
That's a good question. I think it comes down to, again, understanding the fundamentals of pain, understanding the nuances of it. That pain is a full body experience. It's not just people think pain equals damage. You know, I did my back, I blew my disc, I tore my Achilles, that's why I'm in pain. You know, whereas the thing is, pain is much more complicated than that. Unfortunately, like most things in life, it's complicated. It's never simple. So it's a full mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, chemical, nutritional experience that people go through. And so I think you have to have some empathy in the sense of when someone comes in acute pain, to understand that they're going to feel anxious about it, they're going to feel scared, they're going to be worried, they're going to have concerns. That most of the time they're not concerned so much about their back, they're concerned about, am I going to be able to go to work because I need to provide for my kids? Am I going to be able to play my sport that I love so much that takes me away from my depression? Am I going to be able to do X, Y, and Z? So you have to I always try to get to the bottom of what their motivations are. And people will tell you all the time, people will tell you. I always ask them, so how is this affecting? What do you want to see happen? And they always just say, I want to do X. I want to be able to just, be pain-free and not have to worry about it. So then okay, this person has a lot of worry. And you go, okay, so what are you worried about in terms of pain? And then they'll start to tell you about it. And the thing is, most people don't even realize what they're worried about. They don't notice because they're normally small, inconspicuous thoughts that pop into their head, like, oh, shit, I got to pick up my kid from school. How am I going to get out of the car? Like it's small things like that they don't actually remember later on, just that they happen in life. And so once they start to unravel, you start to get an idea of what their concerns are, and then you can start to address those concerns. Some people say, oh my God, I'm just concerned. The doctor said I had this bulge and I had this and I had that and blah, 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 blah. And I always just say, look, like it's fine, don't worry about it. Most people have a bulge. People don't know, most of my patients don't know I have 3 disc bulges. I'm fine. I can deadlift 155. I can squat, I can do many things. I can, play football. I can do this and that. I don't have any pain. So just because you have one of those problems doesn't necessarily mean you have to have, the pain. And so once you start to address their concerns, which are all 90% of them are mainly like emotional needs or, physical needs sometimes, then you can start to help them, and then they start to get better. And they start to realize, okay, and they start to feel more confident and they feel a bit safer. Because with pain it fundamentally is a protective thing. It's out there to protect us, not to hurt us. Pain is not there to punish us for the sins of man. Pain is there to help us to be safe, because it's a survival thing. There's famous stories about the soldiers who get their leg broken and they still run away from the enemy. It's because the thing is that dying from a bullet is more important, is more dangerous than the broken leg. So the body will block it out, and then later on they wake up, oh, my leg hurts. And so the thing is, the pain is there just to protect you, to tell you that something's wrong. So in some people's cases, when they come in acute pain, it's that everything has just gone really badly. And it's just their body's way of saying, I don't feel safe, something's wrong, you need to change something. And so once you give the body kind of what it needs, the body will calm down, the body will stop protecting as much. And once that happens, pain will go down. And in some cases, some people, they've been in protective mode for 15, 20 years. And so their brain and everything in their brain has changed, and their brain has now become much more sensitive to small stimuli. Everything it sees is a threat. My boss said X to me, boom, threat. Oh, my neck hurts. The light is too bright, boom, threat. Oh, I've got a headache. This is too wrong. I didn't sleep an extra hour, boom, threat. My back hurts. So it's just like in your body, the body becomes super sensitive to every single thing that happens in the world. It's just because their body is so scared. Their body is trying to protect them. And once you understand the body is trying to protect you, you'll be like, oh, okay, well, thank you, actually. I'm glad you're here to protect me. But, and so then you can start to unravel, and then they start to get better with different things. But it is a big challenge to try and help people, because you have to try and unravel the onion of all those different things. But they're common things that I see. And so normally I I can address them quite quickly. But there's always cases that come about that I'm just like, oof, how am I going to help this person? What exactly do they need? And it just takes a bit of time and thinking about it.
That's fascinating, in particular the last couple of points about how you suddenly see threat in loads of different areas. And I've certainly worked with people, or I've seen it as well, where, very simple things can set off that threat response because it's heightened, it's practice, it's a well-trodden path or a groove that's been well used as well. And just like positive habits, negative habits and pain can be equally practiced and rehearsed constantly so that you get good at experiencing pain or the threat response as well. And that is a really interesting thing to finish on, because I think what we like to do is try and keep these nice and snappy at around 35-40 minutes. I've been absolutely fascinated, and I love the way you've been expressing a lot of these things, because they're implicit in the way I try and handle my clients, because when it comes to a weight loss journey or strength and conditioning program, you have to take into account the individual. And I'm sure you're the same, James. Have you got anything that you want to add, James, to this?
No, I just want to say it's been a fantastic 40 minutes or so just talking with Khalil, because I've not spoke to him before, not met before, and it's just been a really different conversation. It is, like we said, this is the 8th episode I think that we've done, and it was just lovely to hear your perspective, and I'd certainly be inclined to find out more about a lot of the things you spoke about. If our listeners want to find out more about you and what you do, and also some of the other things you've mentioned, like the FRC and that sort of thing, how can people get in touch with you and connect with you, Khalil?
Brilliant, and thanks as well, James. Thanks for having me on, both of you guys. It's been appreciated. Hopefully we can have some more chats in the future. I'd love to get your guys' perspectives on quite a few things of my own, like training wise with my clients, because again, I don't know everything. I like to see myself as a white belt, always learning. There's always something I can learn from other people. And so I'd love to sort of get down there. But to find me, the best way probably would be through my Instagram. It's Khalil Chiro, so Khalil, and Chiro, Chiro. Either that or it's KhalilHussein.net. Those are probably the best ways. I'm always on my Instagram. I haven't posted for quite a while now. I was quite good for a long time, but I'm hoping to get back out on there, put some more content out as well. And hopefully we can speak again in the future, guys.
Are you doing the online consultations, or is it all in person still?
No, I am doing online. I'm doing everything. So if anyone does want to want my help, then the best way is to again just get my Instagram, or go to my website, fill in my form. So I still do work with people in like Australia and America and stuff. We do remote stuff. And then if they're nearby, they want to come in, then yeah, sure, just best to contact me and I can help them do either face-to-face or online, depending on what they're sort of after and what their needs might be, then I can sort of guide them. Some people even, what seeing me might not be suitable because it's just too far or too difficult, then it's fine. I have plenty of people that I trust all around London, all around the world, that I can send them to go see this person, that person. That's also the thing about FRC, is that it's a whole global community. So I know that if I were to send someone to my friend in Hong Kong, I know he knows what he's talking about because we speak the same language. I know I have a friend in Australia, I have a friend in Dubai, I have a friend in America, I have friends all over the world that I can send people to if they need to be seen face to face. And so then if people are after that, then sure, I can help them with that. Any way I can help, I'd be more than happy to.
Brilliant.
We'll make sure we put all of your all the links and things in the show notes so people can access your website and your email and social media accounts and that sort of thing. But yeah, no, thank you very much, Khalil. It's been fantastic.
Thanks very much, James. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, great. So so that was the Health Oddity podcast. Today's episode was with Khalil Hussein, and we were talking about the benefits of not only the traditional chiropractic, but also the FRC and how you can deal with acute pain and manage the process of healing, what it entails, the mindset you need to be in order to succeed when it comes to rehabilitating yourself. And for me as a trainer, I think it's absolutely fantastic to hear this side of the kind of health question, because I need good people to refer to, but I for me, it is always a dialogue. It's a dialogue between people on the healthcare professional side. There's the strength and conditioning side. And when we work as a team, we get the best possible results. So James, do you want to add anything before I sign off?
No, just again, just thank you to yourself and thank you to Khalil for coming on. It's been great, and I look forward to next week.
Okay, so it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
Take care. Goodbye.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to press stop.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.